I really hope Baltimore is doing okay. They got a long road ahead of them after this particular tragedy that's happened in Baltimore at the Key Bridge collapse that took place around 1:30 midnight at yesterday. Yeah, it was just yesterday on the 26th of March. We had a bridge that collapsed after a cargo ship known as the Dolly that was on its way to Singapore. It was supposed to arrive there at around like April 20th or like the 22nd. And after it left the dock from Baltimore, known as the Sparrow Point, I believe is what I heard, it somehow lost power like at the last like 2 3 minutes, and then suddenly it hit the support column for the Key Bridge in Baltimore that resulted in a collapse that happened in just about 5 seconds. It was almost like a blink of an eye that situation happened. And that claimed the lives of 6 people, which I would presume were all construction workers. They were there just filling potholes and addressing, the quality of the bridge. And 2 of them were rescued from that rescue mission after the U.S. Coastal Guard came in to assess, what was going on and rescue anybody they can. The U.S. Coastal Guard, they did cancel, or I shouldn't say cancel, they suspended the rescue mission indefinitely, roughly like 12 to 18 hours after, because there's no way you could be in the water for that long, let alone the temperatures of the water, because I think we were like in the 30s around the time, and still survive even after 12 hours. So then it became a rescue mission and it converted into a recovery mission. I'm just going to show you guys a video real quick on the whole collapse. You don't have to watch it if you want to. You could just skip over a few seconds because this is not going to be long. And I'll just show you a few scenes of the aftermath of that collapse. This is the collapse that happened. So you can see that that ship just closes in on that support column beam, and the bridge just collapses in like less than 5 seconds. Like anybody that was on that bridge didn't really have much of a chance to escape at all. I know a lot of people say things like, oh, why didn't they see that boat coming? They should have known. I don't think there's much that you can see from standing on a bridge or even like on the side. Like you would have to see that boat hitting that bridge at a specific angle to see that, yo, that boat is gonna hit that bridge. It could have gone under, but for the most part, it hit the column. And I don't think many people cross bridges looking at a boat and say, oh, I hope it doesn't really hit the column because that would be pretty bad for my commute. I don't think that would ever be a thing. So I don't think anyone will be able to foresee that, even if you're just a person standing on a bridge. And don't forget, it's nighttime, and that boat lost power right before the impact. So it's very difficult to assess what disaster could have manifested with those, situations aligning with one another. I don't see it. I don't see it. This isn't something that people could just look at and say, "Oh shoot, that boat is gonna hit this bridge. Everybody get off! Everybody get off!" However, we did get reports that there was a mayday call from the Dolly ship. So this wasn't something that they just stood quiet on and just crashed the ship onto the bridge. They kind of closed. They were trying to close down the bridge, I guess, but I guess it was like too late. And I think there were only construction workers on that bridge at the time. It was still pretty sad. It's a terrible situation all around. The 2 guys that, they survived, thankfully at least. A lot of people were saying it could have been worse with rush hour. It could have been catastrophic during the rush hour. I can only imagine the numbers there. It really sucks because the way how that bridge just collapsed, that's like a blink of an eye. You don't even know what is going on around you before you die. And not to mention you're probably going through shock from the cold water. It's a terrible situation all around. I feel for the families and friends out there that were affected by this tragedy. We're trying to make sense of the situation. We're trying to see, what went wrong. Why did the boat lose power? There's like a Voyager data box that investigators now have in their possession, and they're going to look into it to figure out what went wrong. Why did the power go out the way that it did? And let's check this out for a moment. I know a lot of people were saying things along the lines of like, oh, well, why didn't they steer the boat, or why did they just let it go and everything? From what I saw from the boat, if you saw that boat previously with what I just showed you with the with the large boat in the like the back of the large boat and where it is right now, you can tell from that size that's a very large boat. For context, that boat was only traveling at 9 miles per hour. 9 miles per hour. With that kind of mass, it can still do a lot of damage, even with that much speed. A speedboat wouldn't do much of a difference. You would damage more the speedboat than you would the actual bridge, of course, right? But when you're talking about a ship that size, yeah, you can do a lot of damage, or even not even just a lot of damage. That's an understatement. You can decimate an entire bridge with that boat if you hit it at the right place, and that right place so happens to be the support column, and that's basically what just happened there. And also, not to mention, that boat is, again, because of its mass and because it lost power, it doesn't just stop in place because it lost power. Power is out, but the ship is still sailing, and you have no control of it. And even if it was to gain control, it still takes a while to steer the boat away from the crash. And one thing led to another, and that's basically it from what I'm seeing. This is purely my perspective. It is just more so countering the argument that, oh, why couldn't they steer the boat away? Why couldn't they do this or do that? Like, I don't think you understand how massive these boats are and how difficult it is to, maneuver with these kinds of boats. You kind of have to think logically, like, things don't stop instantly because the power went out. That's not how it works. And also, I do want to talk a little bit about this. I don't like talking about conspiracy theories so much. I don't like entertaining it because a lot of conspiracy theories tend to be very harmful when you spread it around, especially on social media. But there's a lot of people that are like they're focusing more on who to blame than it is focusing on like the lives lost at this tragic accident that shouldn't have happened, but it just manifested to this result. Lives were lost, but we're not focusing on that. We're more so focusing on who to blame. We're focusing on the motives behind it. If there's any government or foreign influence behind it, is it because of Gaza or Palestine or China and America trying to intervene in some way, shape, or form? I hear people talking about vaccines and things like that, and I'm like, just stop. Like, can we just stop and just focus on the fact that this was just a disaster that happened and lives were lost, and now we're going to have some sort of local financial strain in Baltimore because of this. Commute is going to be an absolute bitch. From what I've heard, like, commute now between one place to another without that bridge is now adding at least another 30 minutes to their commute, which may not sound like much, but it is an inconvenience. And that is, Baltimore's port, I think the Sparrow Point is what it's called, maybe. It's like I think it's like the 8th or the ninth busiest, like, port in the nation, in the United States. And that bridge is used oftentimes to transport goods. Like, a lot of trucks go back and forth between that bridge. So now, without that bridge, without that convenience, now there's going to be a lot of congestion. And that's really bad. And that's something that has to be addressed, to the point now that Baltimore declared a state of emergency now. And it really sucks all around. But of course, people are just making it about other situations. Maybe because it's their own speculation or their own truth, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just really ridiculous, and I just don't like to entertain that. Like, can we just focus on the tragedy that's happened here and just see that, listen, 6 lives were lost at an untimely manner. 2 people lived. That's great and all, but this was just tragic. It was an unfortunate disaster all around, and we should just leave it at that and give the families that were affected by this disaster a time to grieve, instead of just pushing our own agendas and our own, motives on, oh, maybe this wasn't an accident after all. Like, it's just so cringe. Now, as of recently, this is only a developing story, so there's still a lot of questions that needs answers. Like, for example, we're still trying to figure out why the boat lost power. I think it lost power numerous times. They're right now looking into, like, the inspection history of the ship itself. They're looking into inspection history of the bridge. If there was any flaws with the bridge that wasn't addressed, was there anything wrong with the boat that wasn't addressed, and maybe there was some sort of oversight or something like that. But the situation just sucks, and I just saw that video and my heart sank. I actually didn't even see that particular video. One of my friends on Discord sent me a live stream because there's an actual live stream that you could look up that you could look at on YouTube. It's a live stream of the actual bridge, and it was like 12 hours. You could go back as far as 12 hours ago, and you can see the boat approaching, the bridge, and it lost power at some point. I think it lost power twice. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I think it lost power like twice, and this was probably maybe in a span of like 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes before the collision, and then that's when the bridge just collapsed. And then that was just unfortunate. My heart sank for every truck that was driving by and that boat was approaching. I was like, oh god, oh please get out, please get out, please get out, please get out. Like I this is the most anxiety I felt all month just watching that video, and it's hard to stomach to see that. But anyways, again, thoughts and prayers to the families out there. I hope there's some answers that can be, given to the questions that they may have. And hopefully we get to the bottom of it so we can get the full and transparent picture on what caused these issues and how we can even prevent it moving forward. But as of right now, there's a lot of uncertainty moving forward with the financial situation going on with Baltimore. As far as like the uncertainty of Baltimore, yeah, there may be some financial strain going on there. They're going to be economically strained without that bridge, that's for sure. As far as rebuilding it, I know that bridge was built like back like in the 70s, and it took like maybe like 4 or 5 years to build completely. But I'm not sure if if that applies to 2024. Like, a lot of things have changed since then. You're talking 50 years ago. So a lot of people, I guess, are kind of thinking that and saying like, well, we're in a modern time right now, and we got modern tech, modern methods, and we have modern solutions. So we should be able to build this bridge in about an hour or two. Like, how much could it cost? How much time does it take to build a bridge nowadays, right? It shouldn't take too long. It doesn't cost so much. But I can't say that. I'm not an armchair expert on politics or an armchair expert on architecture and how much it costs to build a bridge with these kind of materials and this sort of workforce of that size. I'm not that kind of person. And I can understand why you have a lot of politicians that don't want to comment on that, because they're trying to assess the cost. They're trying to figure out, well, we need to figure out how we're going to build this bridge back, how long it's going to take, what is it going to require, and many more. So we're not even going to know the specifics of how long it's going to take until we answer like a dozen other questions first. So other than that, that's it. And that just really sucks for Baltimore. It really does. My heart goes out to them, and yeah, that's about it. Peace.